So Overdrive is one of the most important components of Xenoblade Chronicles X's combat. However, unfortunately, the majority of the player base doesn't know how to properly take advantage and get the most out of this mechanic. And I was the same up until recently, where I played through Xenoblade Chronicles X again, and received a lot of help and advice from the chat on how to properly perform an infinite overdrive. Thanks Elementary, the best! And I realised that the majority of you out there don't have the same access as I do. So today, I'm providing you all with a basic guide on how to infinite overdrive. Now, disclaimer, as the title suggests, this is a more simplistic guide. If you're looking for a video on how to perform some of the more advanced overdrive builds, such as Ether Blossom Dance or something like this, then I recommend clicking off this video now. However, if you're a noob to Infinite Overdrive and want to learn all the basics and be able to Infinite Overdrive yourself, then this is the video for you. In this video, we're going to be looking at the build and how to perform Infinite Overdrive with the assumption that you've just completed Chapter 5 and have just unlocked the Overdrive function. And with all that explained and clarified, let's jump right into the video. And so I think the best place to start is discussing what Overdrive actually is. After completing Chapter 5, you can activate Overdrive by using 3000 TP and selecting the Overdrive button, which of course obviously puts you into the Overdrive state. From then on, you're able to use your standard arts and build up the Overdrive counter, which is the number that you see in the center. As this number increases, you get certain bonuses, such as increased damage, quicker cooldowns, and lowering the enemy's resistance, which is all proportional to the number which is in the counter, which goes up to a maximum of 100. The counter increases per the number of hits that the art you use has, so arts with multiple hits are much better for overdrive than arts which deal burst damage. The next component of overdrive is the colour of the arts. Each coloured art has different effects, and when using certain colours after one another grants extra bonuses as well. I'll have all of the colour effects on screen now, but the important one to know about is that you cannot use a yellow art into an orange art and an orange art into a yellow art, as this will result in you receiving no extra count on the overdrive counter. And the final part of overdrive is how to make it infinite. Whilst already in overdrive, if you build up an additional 3000 TP, you can reactivate overdrive, which gives you extra time, and you can chain this into itself over and over again to be in the overdrive state forever. But before we can make it infinite, there's a little bit of prep work that we need to do before we reach Chapter 5 and unlock overdrive. Don't worry though, both are rather simple. Just make sure not to spend your BP or battle points unnecessarily on random arts and skills, as we'll need them to level up certain ones for this build to work. Lastly, make sure to work towards the Full Metal Jacket class, or FMJ for short, as this class and the ones leading up to it have those necessary arts and skills that I've just mentioned, so you won't get very far without them. It is possible to infinite overdrive in other classes, however it is much harder, so I highly recommend going with FMJ if it's your first time. As I mentioned, there are certain skills and arts that we want from the FMJ class, and the most important ones of those are the Ghost Walker art, the Side Slash art, the Sliding Slinger art, Blood Sacrifice art, and the Hellhound skill, and each one of these provides us with something important to the infinite overdrive build. Sliding Slinger will be your primary art for building up the counter, as it has 6 hits, a rather short cooldown, and grants TP when attacking from the side. Blood Sacrifice is an art which halves your current HP, but grants you 1000 TP, which is used to build TP up as quickly as possible. And Side Slash is important because it's a purple art. When in overdrive, purple arts serve the purpose of building TP proportionally to the overdrive counter per hit. Side Slash has 2 hits, meaning it can potentially give out 2000 TP at once. Any purple art can build TP quickly, however Side Slash is one of the best. However, the two far more crucial components are Ghostwalker and Hellhound. Hellhound is rather straightforward, simply giving you extra time when you activate Overdrive. And Ghostwalker is what will keep you alive. Ghostwalker is a buff art which grants Decoy, and Decoy allows a certain amount of hits to always be evaded, meaning that you won't be taking any damage. The fundamental idea then of Overdrive at this point is to use Ghostwalker and build up the counter to reduce your cooldowns, which means that you get Ghostwalker quicker again and virtually are invincible as you evade each and every hit. In terms of your battle points though, make sure to level up each and every yacht to at least level 2, with the exception of Ghostwalker, which you should level up to level 5. The reason you want Ghostwalker level 5 is the higher the level, the more attacks that you are able to evade. Try to level up Hellhound as high as possible. When I did this on my playthrough, I could get it to around level 3 or 4 by this stage of the game. And these are the essential components of the build. From this point onwards, you can modify the build to your own preferences. However, I recommend also putting on the arts Primer, Violent Streak, Executioner, and Early Bird. And as for skills, Mindscape and Phantom Counter are the two that I recommend to run. But now that we've got the build, we need a punching bag to be able to practice on. And in the world of Mira, there are many options. I recommend fighting Barnabas the Despot, however, because in my opinion, he is the best test subject. He is a level 65 enemy with over 1,000,000 HP, which means you won't die easily to your Overdrive combo. And if you mess up, it's likely to be a one-hit KO on you, which will help you from messing up Overdrive in the future. He is also an ideal subject due to his arts. He has 7 arts, but each of them only has 1 hit, so they won't be chewing through your decoys anytime soon, and you'll be able to practice to your heart's content. If you're too cool though to follow a YouTuber's advice, then keep in mind that you can practice on other monsters in Mira. However, you may run into certain issues, such as being launched if you touch them, which will interfere with your combo, or if it has many arts with multiple hits to chew through your decoys. That said, if you have a better training dummy in mind, then leave them in the comments below to help others who are watching this video. Anyway, now that we have the build and we have our test subject, it's time to actually get infinite overdriving. With Mindscape leveled up, you should have over 4,000 TP to start off with. If you don't, I recommend equipping some gear that increases your TP that you more than likely will have by this part of the game after defeating random monsters. There's then a trick similar to the Ricky Happy trick in Xenoblade Chronicles 1, which you should know about as I've covered it on the channel before, but instead of building the party gauge, we're building TP. Simply use Blood Sacrifice and Primer if you have it equipped to grant yourself an easy 1200 TP. You can then reset these cooldowns by entering the party menu and selecting active members. Once in there, select 2 random party members. You don't need to move them around, just select them twice and click confirm, and your arts will all be refreshed, allowing you to repeat until you're at max TP. And now that we're ready, it's time to initiate the battle and begin our infinite overdrive combo. You can start the battle with either an auto attack or an art, whatever takes you fancy, but the moment the battle starts, you want to immediately activate overdrive and immediately Ghostwalker to start the cooldown as soon as possible. From then on, use Slide Slinger to build up the combo, and if from the side, hopefully build up some TP, Blood Sacrifice to build up even more as quickly as possible, and Side Slash for the exact same reason. What you'll notice in this gameplay is that the counter doesn't go up proportional to the amount of hits that the arts has, and that's because each hit actually has to land on the enemy. So this will take a while, but we will be able to max out the overdrive counter, so keep at it. It is merely a situation at this point to manage how much time you have left on overdrive and how long until your Ghostwalker becomes available again. You want to try and build up a second 3000 TP as quickly as possible, which is why it's helpful to have as much TP as possible to start off with, as the more you have from the get-go, the less you've got to build up for the second usage. You also want to make sure you're using Ghostwalker as often as possible, as usually by the time that the cooldown's ended, you'll only have 1 or 2 decoys left to save you, so you'll need to refresh it as regularly as possible, and this will only get easier as the count increases, shortening the cooldown ever so slightly. Try to select each art as it becomes available, and always keep an eye on the overdrive timer and if it's about to run out. A good way to know that overdrive is running out is that the overdrive Overdrive theme were flirgen will begin fading out back into the standard battle music. So if you hear the song starting to fade out, make sure to activate Overdrive as quickly as possible to extend it and keep it going. It should sound something like this if it's about to run out. If you haven't managed to build up enough TP, however, you can use blue and green arts to extend the timer, as these extend Overdrive proportional to the count, similar to how purple arts work, so they can be useful if you find yourself in a pinch. And that's the general idea on Overdrive and how to make it infinite. Make sure to utilise the other arts you have equipped though, as these may provide you with some of the bonuses that I have mentioned earlier in this video. But before we leave, I want to just share some final helpful tips that should aid you in performing a successful Overdrive combo. You can quite easily kill yourself if you spam Blood Sacrifice too much. Once you hit 1 HP, Blood Sacrifice will take you down that hit point and you will lose the fight. So I recommend hovering around the 5 HP mark just in case you fat finger it by accident. It's not going to be an instant loss for you. Forget about trying to hit soul voices as well. It is an important thing later on in the game with some of the higher quality builds, but when first learning to practice Overdrive, forget about them. Mispressing B when you are trying to hit a soul voice will instantly end Overdrive as it exits combat, so I recommend just forgetting about them altogether for now. It's a lot easier to perform the Overdrive combo if you've thought about it all in advance. If you arrange your arts in an order so that you can press them one after another, it's a lot easier to get into a rhythm of selecting the right art at the right time. If you were following my build to a T, I recommend setting your art layout like this, with Ghostwalker on the left and each art that I mentioned before slowly going to the right, so you can easily access each art by one press of a button at the beginning of your combo. If you've decided to use different arts however, then you can rearrange this to your own preferences. And the final tip I have is relating to Ghostwalker once again. You may have noticed in some of the clips in the gameplay that my arts have leveled up to level 6 and level 7, which is usually a good thing. However, for Ghostwalker, I recommend to try and avoid leveling this up. Xenoblade X's buff and debuff mechanics work differently from the other games. In Xenoblade Chronicles 1, for example, you can extend topples' duration regardless of the level of the art. It doesn't matter if they were toppled with a level 10 art or a level 1, you are still always able to reapply that debuff. This is not the case in Xenoblade Chronicles X. In Xenoblade Chronicles X, you are only able to apply a buff or debuff which is of the same level or higher, not lower. What this means is that if you use a level 6 Ghostwalker for instance, you must use a level 6 again to get any effect at all from the art. The animation will still play, but no extra decals will be applied until they are all used up. If you do select a higher level art by accident, either make sure to only select level 6 arts from then on, or count the number of hits you take. Each level only increases the number of decoys by 1, so count in your head and wait to apply your next one once they've all ran out. And this has been a basic guide to Infinite Overdrive. And I'm sure some of you are thinking that this video is quite long for a quote-unquote basic guide. However, that is for the simple reason there is a lot of information when it comes to Overdrive, and it is unfortunately not so simple. But regardless of all this, I hope you have enjoyed. If you have and this guide has helped you out, make sure to smash that little red subscription button down below, as we're still on the road to 1,000 subs, which will help me to provide you with even more amazing videos. Leave a comment down below as well if this video has helped you, and if there is anything else Xenoblade X related that you want me to cover in the future. But until next time guys, peace.